Hey Monica, how are you doing?
Hey Kimberly, I'm good. How are you today?
Doing great, thanks. I am so excited to talk with you about your CrossFit journey. I believe it was the workouts we were talking about. I believe they were like 9 years apart. Is that correct? 9 years?
Yes, yes. So, in essence, today, and talking about goals and how what they mean to you and the importance they are to you, we thought this was a good story to start with. But long story short, the CrossFit Open just kicked off, and if anybody knows what that is or doesn't know what that is, it's a worldwide online competition that's happened every year from I believe like 2011, 2012ish, up until today. And they released a workout again that was originally done in 2014 that I got to redo again last Friday. So it was the same exact workout that I did in 2014 that I did this week. And it's interesting to compare the same workout over different points in life, right? Because we're talking about a 9 year span difference. 9 years ago, I was still in college. I was training 5 or 6 days a week, and I was very involved in the gym. I think I was like a grad assistant, like I was finishing up grad school at the time, so my career hadn't taken off. So it was super easy to focus on fitness and being in the gym more. Fast forward 9 years later, I've moved across country from Toledo to Tulsa and full on in my career in different aspects in life and different health goals and different goals altogether right now. So the first workout, I made it further. I got a lot more reps than I did this time. But this time it was more important that I show up for myself and get it done and do the best that I can. So it was cool for me to make that happen because I've been battling a handful of things as of recent, some of which you all know about, some not. But um, that goal was important to me to show up and do it. I could have said, "Hey, I'm not gonna do as well as I did 9 years ago, so I'm just not gonna do it altogether." But it was one of those things. I told myself going into this next CrossFit Open, there's two more workouts left to do. One this week and one next. Um, that I really wanted to show up for myself, and just do it for me, not do it for the competitive part of things, be a part of a community, be around like minded people, which we've talked about being important before, and doing it more just for me, for my own mental and physical health, and knowing that I have more goals where I want to get back up to a more competitive state later on. That's just not me right now and where I am. But it's a good starting point, right? I talk to a lot of my people about, it's not fair to compare yourself to an old version of you sometimes, um, because it's a new season. And sometimes it's just not fair to compare ourselves to a version that's 10 years before us saying, well, I was 10 sizes smaller back then. So now all of a sudden I'm not okay where I'm at now. Well, things have changed.
Yeah.
Maybe where you're at now, maybe that size 10 or 12 is a healthy and confident you. And maybe that's a lot better than a skinny, incompetent, insecure person, maybe that you might have been 10 years ago. So some
So when it
perspective
comes,
there.
yeah, when it comes to your goal 9 years ago, at that point, your goal was probably to just like kick ass, right? I mean, just annihilate it, blow it away, right? That was your
Yeah.
goal back then. And if I understand you correctly, that wasn't your goal this time. Your goal this time was to do your best, to extend some grace to yourself, to show up, to still do good. You wanted to do good, you know. But I guess the question I have is, was your goal 9 years ago any more valid than your goal the other day?
No. Um, no, not at all. I think they're both valid. It's just those goals were set for that time frame and where I was in my life. And obviously 9, 10 years apart, most people are going to be at completely different parts and points in their life, because things changed. And 10 years is a pretty decent amount of time for a lot of things to change. So for me, it was just as valid to be super competitive there because I was young and fit. And obviously, things get harder with age as you go through the world of health and fitness. Um, but it was probably even more important to me now where I'm at in life, because I've been through more challenges, I've overcome more things. So just getting through that workout and doing what I did, I think was um, very a positive thing for me right now with where I'm at.
It's funny because you and I were talking about a goal that I had throughout my career, that some people applauded and other people did not. But I never wavered from it. And, there were times when I felt a little embarrassed to admit it, but I look back on that goal and it was a very helpful goal for me to have because of what it led me to do. So I had the end goal of wearing the same size uniform my entire career. So getting hired on at 23 and retiring after 30 years, having two children and the illnesses and everything else all in between, going in and out of uniform. I wanted to always be able to go into the same size uniform. If I was in civilian clothes for a little bit, when it was time to put the uniform on, I didn't want to have to worry about it not fitting. I always wanted my uniform to fit no matter what. Now, that doesn't mean that I just sat back and said, oh, please let my uniform fit. I ran, I cycled. Back in the day when those step classes were popular, I did those. I lifted weights or still do lift weights. I did all this stuff, individual exercise, group workouts, and really tried to eat in a way that served my body. It tried to eat in a way that I didn't notice, some odd weight gain or water retention and stuff like that. But my goal was my uniform to always fit. And when I tell that to some people, they're like, well, that's very unhealthy because, women shouldn't put those, standards on themselves, or why are you giving in to other people's, idea of XYZ? Well, I'm not. That was my goal. That was what I wanted for myself. There isn't anybody in my life who said, Kimberly, you need to stay the same size. There isn't anybody who said, you need to fit into your old uniform when you come back from maternity leave. The quartermaster, I could go in as often as I wanted to, and they would give me a different uniform to fit. They would never even ask any questions. Turn your old ones in, get the new ones, right? No problem. So I do believe that it meets all of the criteria of being a healthy, reasonable goal that was right for me. Um, Have you found as a fitness and wellness coach, have you found that some women do well with goals like that?
Yeah, I think as far as when they come to me, they have their initial goals of what they really want and what's important to them, which is what comes to mind when you tell that story is finding your why and what's important to
Yeah.
you, because your why is only yours. It's nobody else's. So I think we work through the process to make sure that we're finding healthy goals and goals that resonate with them. That's not my job as a coach to sit and judge your goals or try to change your goals, because they're specific to you, right? They resonate with you. So, I mean, if you came to me and said that was your goal over 30 years and that was my job to help you maintain that, I would be more than happy to help you maintain that. I would probably say, hey, like, make sure you're giving yourself a little bit of grace in there every once in a while, because obviously bodies change with pregnancy and stress and I mean, you name it. But I would say, hey, that's probably a pretty good goal. A lot of people probably can't say that they've stayed the same size for 30 years, regardless of if it's like a uniform standard or anything else.
Oh, it
So
doesn't
I would
look
say
the
that,
same. It doesn't look the same. It just all gets into the same size clothes. But you know what? I am really glad you mentioned the point of is it obtainable? Is it reasonable? Because as a life coach for high performing women, I do have clients who really have unreasonable goals. I mean, unobtainable, unreasonable goals. For me, one of the, I don't know, is it luck? I don't know. My body shape didn't really change after I had my children. I have girlfriends who did not gain a pound after they had their babies, but they were physically built different. They were just their hips were wider. They were just built differently. They still worked out, they still took good care of themselves. They didn't have any option but to go up any clothes. They fabulous, great shape. I mean, we were on the same running team and stuff. Their hips just got bigger. Mine didn't. I just Mine didn't. My sister, she got a little bit bigger. I'm not saying heavier. I'm not saying out of shape. I'm saying her body changed. So I do want to put that preface on my goal. My body didn't change enough to where I had to go into a different size clothing. And I think as a life coach and you as a fitness and wellness coach, that we have to acknowledge that from with people. There are people who get injuries that they are not able to do some of the same things they wanted to do before because of the injury. So they can't hold themselves to that same goal. I don't want to use the word standard, but I want to use the term goal. They can't hold themselves to that same goal. So yeah. Um, and here's the funny thing here. As far as goals go, do you think anybody in the world cares that I retired wearing the same size uniform as I got hired on?
No, probably
Nobody
not.
cares. Nobody cares. The only person that cares is me. Does that help me? Honestly, it does help me because when I have another goal that I want to do and I need to just kind of have that conversation in my brain, I can have the conversation that I set a goal and I met it. I set a goal and I did the means to get to the end. So I do think that that's important there. And I would point that out to anybody who had a goal that they set and they were able to be flexible um, and do what they have to do to meet that goal or pivot. You and I use the word pivot a lot. If they had to pivot that goal a little bit, you know, um, the point of having goals is not to beat ourselves up. The point of having goals is to take steps to reach something that we want, to acquire something that we want, to be something that we want, to provide something that we want. It's not to beat ourselves up.
Right. And I think with the question, as far as whether people cared or not that you stayed your same size, like that proves a good point, I think, because you were able to accomplish what you wanted because you stayed true to what you wanted and you stayed the course to make it happen. I mean, a lot of times in law enforcement, and I think especially being a female, perhaps, I think you might be under the microscope a little bit more as it comes to your career path and what you want. Just speaking from my own experience, not for anybody else, of course, but it's like when you put in for training and you get told no, right? I had a captain tell me that I needed a more direct career path because I put in for a read interview and interrogation school. Because at the time I wasn't specific about saying like, yes, I want to be a detective. And typically within our department, it was like, hey, you're not going to get approved for a read school if your goal isn't detective. Well, I was a little more non-traditional in that approach, saying I want to be a great FTO. So I think interview and interrogation is probably a pretty good thing to be able to do on patrol, right? So yeah, that was that denial letter was kind of fuel to my fire. But it didn't change my path, right? Like I didn't get to the point where I was approved for that read school, but if the opportunity arose, I would probably still take it at this point to even pay for myself to go through it. Even if it wasn't department funded, because I know that's a good tool that's going to make me a better person, better officer, better to help my coworkers, better just to talk to people. I mean, it's interview and interrogation. It's talking to people, right? Doesn't matter if you're a cop or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I just say that to say like you're going to get external pressure from all sorts of places. I mean, it's law enforcement. We're always dealing with that, right? But that just goes to say if it's something you believe in, it's something that's very important to you. Like, don't let somebody tell you otherwise. Don't let them steer you otherwise and be a naysayer because that's adversity. You're gonna get that regardless.
Yeah, I love the fact that you were able to verbalize that just because you were denied the training opportunity, it didn't change your goal to still be the best that you can be. It didn't change your mission. You just didn't get the class that you wanted at the time. And you recognize it wasn't like you said, well, screw it. Now I can't be the best FTO because I didn't get that class, which we all know people who handle adversity that way. It's like they don't get something and just they give up on everything. You recognize, well, I'm not getting that class. It's important, but I still need to continue, on my path. I still need to find other ways, more tools to put in my toolbox, get better at what I have. That's Yeah, that's admirable. That's definitely it's called resilience is actually what it is. It's being resilient, you know? I mean, if we got everything we wanted and everything was easy, you know, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be a goal. Because was it easy to always fit into the same uniforms? No, not so much. Because when you go on a cruise, it's an all you can eat buffet. You know, and I can eat a lot of food. I can pack
Yeah.
it in, you know, but I knew that my end goal was I had to be back in uniform when I got back home. And so, you know, I knew I could do things. And, you know, I'm laughing and I'm making light about that, but I think everybody can probably think about that in their own head. You know, if I had a goal and I wanted to reach it, what would I do? Especially a really obvious one that isn't coming from outside. It's not like I'm going to go in and take a test and somebody's going to tell me, oh, you passed or you failed, or that somebody's going to grade me. I know day in and day out how my body is doing. You know, you and your CrossFit workouts, you know, you didn't sit around and wonder for 9 years, am I going to be able to work out? You continued to work out. You've stayed active. You went into this last competition, maybe not knowing where you were going to fall on the leaderboard, but you knew you were going to do your best and you knew that you were
Mhm.
going to perform.
Yep.
So
Pretty
yeah,
much. I think that's a good summary of it.
yeah, you weren't waiting for somebody else to sit back and go, oh, Monica, you know, you did good. No, you know how you did. You know how you did. So, what's the last thing that you would tell somebody on this light and serious topic of owning your own goal?
Just stay true to you. Write it out, know what you want. Realize that if you don't get it, maybe it's time to reassess. Maybe it's hey, do I keep trying and keep going down that path? Or like you said, do I pivot and go a different direction? I especially relating it back to law enforcement. There's a lot of things that we try to achieve in law enforcement that are difficult to do that we don't always get the first time around, right? Especially like the higher skill stuff, like your firearms instructors, your defensive tactics, your driving instructors, things like that. Sometimes those take time to develop, and you're not going to get it first time around. I mean, I went through firearms instructor school. I did really well. I mean, I was proud of how I did. I didn't pass, but it's one of those things that you're just like, well, maybe next time. Maybe I need more practice. I need to come back better next time. That doesn't mean I'm not good enough or I'm never going to get it. Skills like that take time to develop. So I think that goes without saying of just giving yourself grace, making sure you're using the right resources, you're practicing your training, you're doing the right steps to get there. But just because it doesn't happen the first time doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Or maybe it's just it'll repivot you into a different direction where you end up getting something better than what you thought you wanted at the time. So
Yeah, absolutely. That pivoting and um, you know, I think of the rifle school. I myself never went through rifle school, but I have tons of friends that have gone through rifle school, and some of them, it is a major, I'm trying to think of a nice word to call it. It's a nice brain screw is the best way to say it. Where, you know, they go out and they just don't do well. And, you know, there's not a lot of wiggle room in a rifle score. I mean, to qualify, it's, you know, you're perfect. And they really have struggled with that. And it was very interesting to see some people really rise to the challenge and other people not. Other people say it's not worth the effort, it's not worth the time. It was their goal or it wasn't. You know, no judgment, no judgment at all. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you want to do it, do it. And there's people who, like you, go back and they do it. It's an
mhm.
amazing thing to see. It's an amazing thing to see. It's really amazing to see women do it because you know that's kind of shocking to some people, you know, to see that.
Yeah.
But Monica, thank you so much. We will include all of the contact information in the show notes so that people know how to get a hold of you. Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear over the years how you do in your CrossFit workouts. You think you'll do it again next year, the same workout?
No, probably not the same one, but each year they usually throw a repeat workout in there, so you almost always get to retest something. So it's cool to compare things year to year of how you're doing. So cool.
Perfect. Cool beans. Well, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.